Today I'm taking you inside a theme park that should be illegal as I cross through the barbed wire and mock checkpoints to visit a place dubbed Stalin World, a collection of Soviet art and playground rides set up to feel like a gulag experience simulator / petting zoo.
Now that's something I never thought I'd see in my whole life.
And if you're thinking, given the brutal violence of that regime, surely this is the most controversial theme park in the world, then you're not alone. This place has been sued by everyone, from real gulag survivors to the Catholic Church. And when you've seen it and the crazy tactics used by its owner, maybe you'll agree with those who have called it illegal and tried to shut it down. Or, just maybe, you'll prefer the argument that it's a force for good.
I have no idea what to think right now.
I'm in southern Lithuania, about a half-hour drive from the Belarusian border. This area was occupied by many different states, many different times throughout the centuries, but it's the 50 years of Soviet rule that casts the longest shadow here. Directly after Germany murdered 200,000 Lithuanian Jews during World War II, the Stalinist regime began its own oppressive program with deportations to Siberia that killed a similar amount. And the following decades featured massive Russification of the remaining local population via the suppression of Lithuanian language, history, culture, and religions, until Lithuanians bravely stood up to Moscow, including 14 civilian martyrs who were killed during a peaceful protest. And in 1991, Lithuania became the first state to declare independence from the USSR. It was a long and arduous fight for freedom, and it faced the new republic with an immediate problem. So your cities contain hundreds of Stalins, Lenins, and Marxes on plinths. And what do you do with them? How do you process that level of suffering and all of its psychological and physical manifestations? Well, Lithuania asked its people for ideas. Do we leave them up? Do we just add extra signs and context apologizing for them? Do we publicly deface them? Do we hide them away and just try to move on? Or is there another, more novel solution? This man definitely thought so. One Mr. Malinauskas, a Lithuanian businessman who's about to enter our story. Born in 1942, he lost his own father at a young age to the Soviet deportation program before going on to work as a beekeeper and then eventually making his millions in the mushroom export industry. He was willing to front about $2 million of his own money and the necessary land to create his own vision for what to do with the statues. The government went with it, helped round them all up, and here it is. A unique attraction that's really called a Grutas Park, but is known to the Western media as Stalin World, on account of its Disney-ification of the Soviet experience. And I've made the long bus journey through the Lithuanian countryside to show you around.
Okay, this is wild.
It's a bizarre and somewhat haunting combination of Soviet art, old Russian fairground rides, and zoo animals. A cold Baltic forest full of propaganda statues that immortalize all kinds of grim communist figures, which you wander around in complete silence, apart from the accompanying soundtrack of tinny communist marches and anthems droning out of the odd megaphone. If that's not questionable enough for you, there's even real train carriages that were genuinely used to deport Lithuanians to labour camps in Siberia. Malinauskas reportedly wanted to get these things running again and tow guests around the park in these crowded wagons with no seats to simulate the real deportation experience, but you know, the government had to draw the line somewhere and they ruled that that idea was too far over it.
Wow. Creepy. Very creepy.
The park deliberately opened on April Fool's Day in a ceremony featuring Lenin impersonators and has since become a hit attraction for Lithuanian school trips. I think that I am slightly desensitized to the iconography of Marx and of Lenin, but I have to admit that walking in here and seeing for the first time in my life a statue of Stalin did surprise me. I did find his image shocking, and that actually makes perfect sense, because breaking down that shock factor is one of the primary functions of this park, at least according to its owner, who said, "Why am I doing this? It's my gift to future generations. If people can come here and joke about these grim statues, then Lithuania is no longer afraid of communism." Although, to be honest, I am slightly afraid walking along this path with creepy mock watchtowers looking down on me, not to mention all the statues. Before we talk about the major protests opposing this place, here's why I found the owner's line pretty convincing for me personally once I was there. It's an attempt to recontextualize these grim icons and make them the butt of the joke instead. Arguably here, it's Lenin and Stalin themselves who are now locked up in the cold behind barbed wire, rather than the citizens of Lithuania. In a world where most people hide their old dictator's face and swear never to talk about it again, Lithuanians can instead pop in to see it crumbling in the moss and covered in bird poo. It's a place to take your grandchildren and say, look, this is what type of schools we had, this is what type of playgrounds we had. You know, look at where this used to stand. It's that street corner that you know today and we walk past all the time still, and we used to have to pretend that we liked these things being there. Only for the child, they now get to see it in a completely absurdist context, smiling all the way and looking forward to going on a camel ride or something. You can show them trabbies and larders and sit drinking coffee in a weird old hunting lodge surrounded by decommissioned artillery and military locomotives. I'm also told by Lithuanian speakers that even the names of the dishes in the restaurant are grim puns on old USSR oppression tactics. I guess the easy point of comparison would be to say, how about a park full of Hitler statues in Germany? How would you feel about that, and how do you think the public would react to it? But then also remember that this was occupied Lithuania, so it's more like asking about the reaction to a park full of Hitler statues in Poland or Hungary or Lithuania. And if you do see this park in that more harsh light, then maybe you empathise more with the people trying to bring it down, which definitely is also fair. Detractors accuse this Disney-ified experience of glorifying the past in a tasteless way that just creates a kind of shrine for real, unironic, modern-day pro-Russia factions. They argue that it would be better to make new artwork commemorating the victims instead of the oppressors. An anti-Stalin World petition, signed by members of the Catholic Church hierarchy and various Lithuanian politicians, once boiled over into a full drama trying to close the park, and this debate got pretty heated. They tried everything, including a failed attempt to use copyright laws to complain that the statues were being displayed without paying royalties to the descendants of the artists. There is an entry fee, after all, about €10 when I visited, which is obviously helping to recoup the original investment, as well as a cafe and a gift shop. And the dispute, saying that the park was so insensitive to the point of surely being illegal, even reached Lithuania's constitutional court, but they denied the claim, ruling not only that Malinauskas had acquired the statues from the government and acted with their approval, but they also cited a state-run survey showing that over 70% of Lithuanians approved of the park's existence. At which point the protests got even more intense, and a group representing real survivors of political persecution even went on hunger strike to try to force the government to reconsider. To which Malinauskas replied by having busts made of all of the lead figures in that protest and also displaying them here in the park, saying that those who are still afraid of the shadows of the past deserve to also stand here next to them. And that is just one hell of a power move. That is just amazing. Whether you agree with his intentions for this place or not, he is sticking to his guns. You have to imagine that a guy whose driveway is paved with every single time that he's made the news around the world isn't shy about causing a controversy or two. When considering these subjects, we mustn't forget that it's a completely live issue to this day. Since Ukraine, even more Russian symbols have been removed from Lithuania's capital, like this one that until recently stood in a graveyard commemorating fallen Russian soldiers from World War II. And here you can see the gap that they leave in that cemetery where they're now replaced by 6 trees instead, because the original statue was moved to outside the gates of Stalin World, demoted to a roadside attraction, which I, personally, can see as being even more insulting than hiding it away or smashing it. And in the face of this new chapter of the story, survivor advocacy groups have even softened their stance a little and supported this particular move as a compromise just to get these statues anywhere other than prominent plinths in the city. So the gulag gag worked on me, but of course I can't speak for a real Lithuanian. But it definitely feels like, you could invite your grandma here to throw tomatoes at the people who made her childhood such a misery. And all that remains is for every visitor to make their own mind up about whether that kind of museum of absurdist humour is helpful to how we remember the past or not. If you want to plan your own trip to see Lenin and the llamas, use the links in the description to do so. Don't forget to subscribe if you like this video, and you can click here to watch my next travel history deep dive. Thank you.